My name's Davida Shensky, and the title of this program is Live Without Limits, Reach Personal Success on a Daily Basis. Our purpose is to talk and give you motivational information on how to overcome any limiting beliefs you have by discussing psychology, mental health, relationships, and personal development. Today's presentation is titled, Are You Emotionally Unavailable? 5 Warning Signs to Protect Yourself. Emotional availability is a crucial yet underappreciated aspect of healthy, successful relationships. Emotional availability describes the ability to sustain emotional bonds in relationships, as quoted in Healthline. Although a partnership may persist, it cannot really prosper unless both people are able to be vulnerable in this way. But how does someone know if they are emotionally available? And how can they find out before investing years of their life in something that isn't likely to succeed? There are many relationships that a person is emotionally unavailable, and many times because they don't know how to show empathy, they don't know how to have a relationship because they never really had a relationship in the home they grew up in that was respectful or very loving. And you have to come from a very loving home where each other are basically there for one another. Because I can remember years ago where I met someone and she was a hugger, and it kind of threw me a little bit because I grew up in a home where there was no loving or respect. And so I don't always know how to react in certain situations with people who are emotionally available for you. So, 5 warning signs that they are emotionally unavailable. Needs versus very needy. Emotionally unavailable partners tend to confuse having needs with being needy. Every person in a relationship has needs, and successful couples know how to voice theirs and listen to their partners. Are you being called out when you ask for any of these things? Being called needy in response to stating your needs, having pretty much any emotions at all, suggesting intimacy beyond sex, requesting quality time, reminding them that a partnership means working together. You need to know that having a negative reaction or calling you needy is typical of emotionally unavailable people and toxic behavior. Of course, neediness does exist in some relationships, but as long as someone's needs and expectations are reasonable and not excessive, willingness to meet these needs comes down to compatibility. But an unavailable person will try to shut down and shame their partner for having needs and asking them to be met, deterring future requests and alleviating this expectation from a relationship. Sometimes the toxic partner will admit their significant other's needs are valid, but that they don't have the capacity to fulfill them. Intolerant of emotions. Emotionally unavailable people tend to respond to their partner's emotions negatively. They either become angry and aggressive, they shame and guilt the partner out of their feelings, escape the situation, and leave the conversation or location. Most emotionally unavailable people love to call out their other people's anger as hysterical, but don't consider their own anger to be an emotional outburst. They think anger is only an emotion for others. But in any case, if your partner responds to vulnerability, sadness, crying, anxiety with anger, shame, guilt, or abandonment, you've got an emotionally unavailable person on your hands, shallow and sheltered. Emotionally unavailable partners tend to hold back on their personal details and important information about their past. They usually resist deep conversations, shun being vulnerable, avoid talking about trauma. They may be tolerant of hearing others discuss deeper issues, but won't volunteer their skeletons or secrets, no matter how long they've shared their life with someone. On the other, or on the contrary, just because a partner does volunteer important information about their past or trauma doesn't always mean they are emotionally unavailable. They can rewrite history to favor their side, to use it to gain sympathy and manipulate the situation and their relationship in general. Deep disagreements in the same vein, emotionally unavailable partners often avoid arguments about real issues. Fights, conflicts, and disagreements may be frequent, but the underlying issues that really need to be discussed are not. These include maturity, mental health, self control, respect, values, expectations, boundaries, communication, trust, investment in relationships. Instead of finding solutions to legitimate problems, emotionally unavailable partners often don't fight fair, resorting to screaming, name calling, deflection, blame shifting, low blows, and leaving or refusing to discuss the issues at all. Emotional affairs. Emotionally unavailable people tend to consider nothing except intercourse with someone other than their partner as cheating. Non monogamous arrangements may have more rules around sexual activity outside of the primary relationship, but once boundaries are established, they will still often be crossed. It doesn't matter how flexible or permissive the relationship is, emotionally unavailable partners will find a way and reason to cross boundaries when they can. Have a boundary conversation early. Each relationship is different, but what are considered acceptable and unacceptable interactions with other people needs to be discussed and decided on early in the relationship. If both partners cannot agree on what cheating is, it is bound to happen and cause further problems down the road. Seriously violating one partner and completely dismissed by another. Emotional availability may seem hard to pin down. We may recognize when it's there, but don't quite know what is missing when it's not. Someone who is emotionally unavailable is open, vulnerable, honest, mature, secure, and communicative. Okay, so I'm going to say this again, and I'm going to backtrack on some things. Emotional availability may seem hard to pin down. We may recognize it when it's there, but don't quite know what is missing when it's not. Someone who is emotionally available is open, vulnerable, honest, mature, secure, and communicative. And this is what we should strive to have healthy relationships. They don't run hot and cold. They understand their emotions and make the effort to understand their partners. They care about what their partner needs and set reasonable boundaries for themselves in the relationship. Self help or professional counseling can help unlock someone's own emotional depth and help them determine early on if a love interest is emotionally available, selecting a healthy partner and developing an emotionally satisfying relationship becomes much easier and less dramatic when we know what to look for. And the thing to remember is this, that the kind of relationships we have as an adult depend on the kind of relationships we have as children, because often if you have a parent that doesn't know how to be emotionally available to their children, then their children become emotionally unavailable to others. Therefore, it is important for us to learn how to be there for one another and how to care for one another and not let someone else determine who you are or how you feel about yourself or how and the kind of relationships that you do have.